who she was, the one who could walk between both worlds. When Ahsoka's eyes opened, she rose. A smile resonated from her face, and she walked from the water. She looked at Master Kenobi and commented how white suited him so well. He smiled and told her that Satine used to say the same thing all the time. Ahsoka smiled and looked at the Master of the Bushido and asked what now. They told her the choice was hers. She was a Seeker, and she was only capable of achieving the restructuring of the bond between the Jedi and the Bushido. Ahsoka asked if there were a way for her to meditate, and Master Respect led her to one of the meditation chambers in the temple. As they walked there, Ahsoka was able to take in much more of the scenery and see everything else in its great beauty. While the temple on Coruscant was beautiful for what it was assembled a shambles the Order was left in, and that was before the onset of Order 66. This temple here on Lator was gorgeous. Todaiji Temple was situated in the tropics, so there was a lot of open halls and windows. So much of the air in the temple was natural, and allowed for the members of the Order to connect themselves with the Force. This was a stark contrast to the fortress on Coruscant, which had very little access to the planet, the Force, or anything else aside from politics. Ahsoka was shown into the meditation chambers, and she found a number of children. They weren't referred to as younglings. Instead, they were all students, until they became guardians. It was so interesting to her how lax the Bushido were. The students were in here on their own will. There was no instructor watching over them. Master Respect urged her to go in and connect to the Force. She thanked him and entered. While Ahsoka was in the meditation chambers, Anakin and his little family arrived out in the little landing area where the Jedi shuttle was. Obi-Wan had since informed the Bushido that the prophesied Chosen One was coming with a small family. Truthfully, the Council was surprised that the Jedi had found their Chosen One after all these years. The prophecy was older than their order as it was. They had absolutely no issue with it, and actually got excited at the chance to meet such an individual and the family he brought. It was so interesting that the Jedi had a master of their own break away from the code so much. Obi-Wan kind of explained the situation, but wanted Anakin to be allowed to explain it himself to them when he got here. Anakin was told by Ahsoka to bring his family with him. Being Bushido wouldn't ruin their family or so forth. Ahsoka also explained as much as she understood in the moment. Of course, Padme was relatively apprehensive about the entire thing, but she was willing to give it a try. It wouldn't be hard for it to be somewhat better of an experience than it was being on Naboo. Since the crumbling of the Jedi Order and the end of the war, the Republic itself was falling apart. This was largely in part to what Palpatine set up before his untimely demise. Everything he worked so hard for was coming to fruition, yet he wasn't around to see the product of it. While peace came easy, it was the rebuilding that fractured the already broken system. Padme and Anakin were avoiding it as much as possible, but the corruption was leaking outwards, and it was clear that those who did not support the state would be taken away. Being that Padme and her allies were all against Palpatine's motivations, the Republic could begin tracking them down for treason. Padme and Anakin landed on Lator, and they were greeted similarly to Ahsoka. With Obi-Wan wearing his white robes, he was able to clear the air and bring them towards the Todaiji Temple. On the walk from their landing zone to the temple, Master Respect informed the couple of the life they could live here. Padme could become a Bushido, but she couldn't walk the path of Bushido. For people like Padme, where the Force wasn't strong within them, they were given a chance to be a part of the ancient religion if they wanted. Of course, if they didn't want to, then it wasn't a big deal. It was a way for the Bushido to not become hypocrites. If they told people who didn't have the ability to use the Force that they couldn't join, then they'd be no better than the Jedi. This was a very rigid and convoluted way to look at things, but it's how they saw it. Regardless of which, Master Respect had a lot of interest in the prospect of having Skywalker's family become a part of the Bushido. This wasn't a power grab, but a continuation of the journey Ahsoka was on. Anakin and Padme were both carrying Luke and Leia, and they decided that they would become a part of the Bushido Order. It would provide them safety for the time being. Also, not for nothing, the tropics of Lator were truly beautiful, and the weather was to die for. Because Ahsoka was still meditating, they didn't get a chance to talk with her.